Got Your Back Podstream is brought to you by Kinprint. For all your company's promotional needs, they do it all. Apparel, promotional products using the highest quality brands. They do logo design, signage, and printing. Kinprint will promote your brand with excellence. Visit kinprint.ca. Oh, yes, it is Friday. Happy Friday morning. Welcome to Got Your Back. YEG, Rishaug, and Strudwick. Great show on the way. Mark Masters, my buddy, my colleague out in Toronto, is going to join us. We're going to talk a little bit about the Toronto Maple Leafs, what to expect from them this year. Struds and I are also going to dig in on what a championship blue line is supposed to look like. How close are the Oilers? Struddy's going to talk about, in his signature segment, Struddy's World, his own hair. Yes, the big guy finally going to open up about one of his great sensitivities in Struddy's World. And, of course, your questions and comments on the stream as well. Got Your Back, brought to you, as always, by our title sponsor, Sherwood Buick GMC. But we want to tell you about their sister dealership today, Sherwood Motor Cars. They've got a great event coming up this weekend. Cars and Coffee, bringing together the most iconic and breathtaking vehicles, from customs to classics, exotics to vintage. It's an automotive spectacle that you will not want to miss. Sunday, September 17th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., 3001 Buckingham Drive here in Sherwood Park. That's Sherwood Motor Cars. If you love high-end vehicles or classics, you have got to check it out. I was in the showroom last week. Mind-numbing, the inventory and the cars that they have on hand. Of course, that is Sherwood Motor Cars, sister dealership of our title sponsor, Sherwood Buick GMC. We are here in the Long Shot studio in Sherwood Park. Going to do some on-location stuff with Long Shots this year. Looking forward to it. They've got locations in Sherwood Park here, one out in Edmonton as well. Great combination of golf and great food. Struds, how are you this morning, my man?
Good. Well, I look forward to working on my short game at the Long Shots. I can hit the deep ball. I mean, I hit it probably 40, 50 yards past you, but it's the short game that I need to spend time with at Long Shots.
You just remember who's got the belt right now, my friend. You keep that in mind when you get chirpy. And I'm waiting for the invite. Like, if you want to try and grab that belt back, just, you know where I am, pal. I'm not coming to you. You come to the champ.
I'm working on my game to bring it up to a level. I played yesterday. I had 87. But I had 2 7s and a 6 on a par 3. I still shot 87. So
nice.
I know it sounds like a bad beat story, but I'm just trying to justify my playing.
No, that's okay. But I think it's important for you to always remember, when you feel like you're having a good round, you can always tank it. And I think that I need you to keep that in your head for the rest of the season, Struddy. This is going real well. I know it's about to happen. It's
true.
Zuby, how we doing out there in Kelowna, pal? I threw you a bunch of curveballs this morning, and I need to apologize. So if Zuby, we might not hear a lot from him in the background because he's probably panicking. Are you okay, Zuby? Any technical difficulty on the show today is my fault.
I should have made a board, some flashing text. This is Ryan's fault. I have that as a backup that can come on. It could also be attributed to the early hour here in Kelowna, but it's all good. It's all good. We're going to work our way through it. I don't know. We're clean so far, so we're
yeah, you just jinxed us big time.
Yeah.
We are live on Twitter and on YouTube. I'm going to go to this comment. Seeking Sand Guru says, "Can I get a conch for a beautiful morning in central New York?" Wrong show, buds. You are not listening to the right show. Stay with us. We're going to try and do a good show too. No conches. I would love to steal that bit, but that is Dustin Nielsen's intellectual property, so we won't be going there, Struddy.
No. And I love the conch when they conch it up.
Oh, yeah.
But, no, we're not conscious. We can say hello. Good tidings today.
Yeah, good tidings and hello. Struddy, Rishaug, and Zuby, good day to you.
Yeah.
No
quite exciting.
Let's get to our breakdown, guys. Brought to you by Mr. Dirk, the iconic men's clothing store in Edmonton, founded in 1939. If you have never been to the showroom, you got to go check it out. It is so nice, modern, comfortable, and the service there is great. You know, go see Sterling, go see Dan, any one of their great staff members. If the wardrobe needs a little bit of a kick up, a little refresher, you want to look a little sharper around the office, They're absolutely designed to help you out, whether it's full suits, whether it's casual wear, whatever it is. Mr. Dirk, just off White Avenue and 102nd Street. Your one-stop shop for all of your clothing needs. And love having them as sponsors here for another season of Got Your Back. Strud's main topic I want to dig into today is a championship blue line and what a championship blue line is supposed to look like. I think, we know what the Oilers have up front. Do they have enough on the back end? That's, I think, what Oiler fan goes to bed at night wondering in their brain, in their worried brain. So let's run through what we believe and what you believe the elements on a championship blue line should be. Starts with that number one guy, right? Not every team has had one, but that big stalwart minute munching number one do-it-all kind of guy. How important is that guy?
Well, this was my number one point right through 100. Actually, this is what it's all about. And when we look past past Stanley Cup champions, let's just review the type of players that are. The Vegas Golden Knights, Pietrangelo, stud. Colorado Avalanche, Makar, stud. Tampa Bay Lightning, Hedman, stud, because they won it twice. Then we go back to Pietrangelo, St. Louis Blues in 2019. Carlson, 18. Letang with the Penguins. Duncan Keith, Drew Doughty. Then it goes Duncan Keith, Drew Doughty. So it is not perhaps a part-time need. You need to have the number one stud. You need to have it. The only team I can think that won the Stanley Cup that didn't have what I'd call a true number one stud, and this is going to hurt Oilers fans, but when Carolina won the Stanley Cup. Yeah. Other than that, every team has had a true number one stud. So do the Oilers have that guy?
Yeah, that's a good question. They kind of have, it's kind of like two guys wrapped into one, right? Darnell Nurse could be that guy. Right? Certainly gets paid like that guy, but could be that guy. He's put up offense in the past. We know what he can do when he's on his game. I think the elements are there for him to be pretty darn close to that guy, but he's not quite there. And I don't know if he ever will be, and that's okay because number 1As, 1B, and 2s are extremely valuable as well. But fair to say that, if you could take Evan Bouchard and Darnell Nurse and just mash them all up into a defenseman, that would be what you're talking about.
Well, the other option is that Evan Bouchard evolves into that, right? Mm-hmm. That's perhaps another thing. I don't know if we'll see that this year, but I think that's a possibility. And then the second piece to this, I know I'm kind of jumping over your points.
No, buddy, this is
number one.
Your show.
Batman always has a Robin. So if Darnell Nurse is that guy, who is his Robin? And Cody Ceci, yeah, he's a fine player. I think he slotted up a little bit too high in the lineup. When you look at some of these guys I hammered out, look at who some of their partner were. Right, they were very like when you go back to Drew Doughty, I believe it was Alec Martinez. And I think even wasn't Pietrangelo with Alec Martinez last year again? Or did I
Martinez was there, right, and they all played. So.
But you need to have a 1A and a 1B or a 1, I shouldn't say that, a Batman and his Robin. So, I think that for this group of D-man, for the Oilers to really kind of be that championship level that the pedigree is required, they're going to need to, have Nurse take another step. But we're talking about, I'm not talking about going from a 5 to a 10. We're talking about going from an 8 to a 9 or an 8 to a 10. It's very difficult. Mm-hmm. And CC as well has to kind of maybe raise his game back to where we saw it before. The other option is maybe Ekholm and Bouchard. Maybe they push their way up, right? And Bouchard becomes that guy. And then Ekholm is obviously very capable Robin. So
I think the Oilers, we agree there might not be a Batman. And I'm not sure if this superhero theme is going to stick through the whole thing, but we'll try.
Fair point.
Not sure if there's a Batman. I think Matthias Ekholm could be anybody's Robin. Anybody. Yes. Like he is that exact guy you're talking about. Not crazy offensive, but sneaky good offensive, right? Really good defensively. Not the greatest puck mover in the league, but a sneaky good puck mover. A guy who is just rock solid in all aspects and sneaky good in some of them. To me, that is the perfect Robin to the Batman, and that is Matthias Ekholm. So, yeah, and you know what? In a lot of ways, could be Darnell Nurse too. So 2 Robins, maybe no Batman. What's next?
Well, I think next, I think for you're talking about for a championship D, I like size and mobility.
So
Size and
that big
mobility.
defensive stalwart, that big guy who can close it down in front of the net, dominate in the corners, play hard minutes, kill penalties, but not be a bad puck mover.
Yeah. And those are good things to have. Those are all attributes you want. I think what the Oilers have done a really good job is adding size to their back end and mobility, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're very mobile. Now, obviously, if Darnay's in there, and this is no disrespect to Darnay, but he doesn't move like the other 5 guys. But if Broberg's in there, now you have 6 very mobile, long, rangy guys that take up space. So, I think, you compare it to what they had in Vegas last year with Haig and White Cloud, guys like that, big, take up space, get in your way and clog up areas. I think the Oilers are trending in that direction.
Yeah. So do we feel like they have, of those first 3 things that we listed, there's maybe a couple of Robins there, that big defensive guy. Is that, if we're thinking about what they potentially could add this year, would that be that guy that we just described on the right side next to Nurse?
Like a true number 1 stud that defends. I think that might be.
No, I'm talking about the third option that we just talked about, right? The big defensive guy, not a bad puck mover. I guess what I'm saying is as you evaluate the blue line as it exists right now, what type of player you think it needs to be added to push them over the line?
Yeah, so you're talking about slotting them in the right position, and I think Darnell, Bouchard, Ekholm are all slotted in the right top 4. I think they got it. I think CC, he's not paid like a number 1 or a top pairing defenseman, but he's being played like one. And I think for the most part, he's overshot his contract, and he's done a really good job. But I don't believe he is what they need him to be. And then that's a tough thing. He's a very good NHL defenseman. Teams would trip over themselves to get, because again, that contract is very good. Look, some of the contracts they were signed this summer for D-men, that one's looking pretty good. Not looking, it is a good contract, I believe. It's a value contract. But when you're talking about winning a Stanley Cup, you need elite in your top 4, elite. So, if you can add a guy like a Brett Pesce, I don't know if that's even available or possible, but a guy like that on your right side, I think it would go a long ways to solidifying what would look and feel like a championship defense. Now, if you could do that and keep CC and he drops in your third pairing, now you're really going over the top. Mm-hmm. But I think that there is one piece missing in this 6 to balance it out. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. One piece in the top 4, like if they're going to make an upgrade this year, it needs to be in their top 4. I believe it'll be closer to the trade deadline like it was last year, and it'll be a really targeted move like Ekholm was. I think they had success with that. The fact that they waited as long as they did, we all knew they needed another defenseman, but they waited and went and got exactly what they needed. Yeah. I think it'll be similar this year in terms of their tactic. I think if the Oilers' blue line is good enough to truly push for a Stanley Cup this year, even if Philip Broberg has a really good year, it should be really hard for him to be in the lineup, right? Even if Philip Broberg is playing really well, he should still have a stack of guys in front of him that make it difficult to be in. Because generally that's what you see. You got this team with all this depth. The best young defenseman in the system quite often is knocking on the door, but still can't quite get there because you've got that level of depth in your organization. So it'll be interesting to see what Desharnais gives them, right? If he becomes a regular on the third pair because they love that size and aggressiveness, he has the ability, if he plays well, Struds, to really make it hard on them to pull him out of the lineup. And that's what he did last season. So what can he contribute? How meaningful will it be? Another year of development and growth. Could he be a big part of that defensive guy that we're talking about in a greater way? Not just surviving and playing good, but really making a difference in games.
I think it would be difficult for him to become a top 4 defenseman this year, and maybe ever, just considering his age.
Yeah. And I'm not suggesting that necessarily. I mean that third pairing guy where you're like, yeah, he's out there not just surviving and getting by, but really looking really good.
Yeah. So what does he do when he looks really good? I guess we have to identify that. Holding on the puck and skating it, that's not what he looks good doing. His job is to separate people from the puck, defend the blue line, defend the hard areas, and move the puck as quick as he can to somebody else. Just get it and pass it up. You don't need to carry it. There's nothing special going on there. Just move the puck. When he's playing well, that is what his game looks like. I'm not suggesting he's not skilled, but he is, of the 6 guys, he's be the least skilled. So you want to get the puck off your stick to somebody else, but be so hard to play against, so that every time you go over the boards, the other line's like, oh my God, I got to play against this guy. Like, just make it very uncomfortable. That's when he's at his best. And I really like, if he and Kulak are together, I really like that pairing together, because I think Kulak is very good at defending with his feet. And I would like to see him continue to be more aggressive defending up ice and taking away gap and space further up ice, because he skates so well, knowing that Vinny's back there. And even if he gets beat, which isn't very often, but if he does, let's say he falls down, like we've seen a few times on goals against, Vinny's really big and takes up space and can kind of direct guys into areas that aren't great scoring chances as compared to a smaller guy.
An upgrade is needed. Can we agree that if they roll into the playoffs with the same blue line they have right now, understanding people can improve and the situation might be different come playoff time, but my thought analysis is right now, if they roll into the playoffs with the blue line that they have right now, they'll be leaving it to chance more than they should at this stage in their cup window. Fair?
I would agree up to a point. I need to see I think I know what the left side of the D is going to be. I don't expect a lot of surprises there. I mean, can Darnell can continue to take steps. Like, there's no doubt about it. I think Ekholm is what he is, and same with Kulak. I don't expect those guys to change much. The right side for me is very much in flux. Number one, what can Bouchard do? What can he do over a full 82 season beside Ekholm? What influence can Ekholm have on him? Can he kind of just polish up a few things defensively? And not that he's a major problem, but you're trying to get marginal improvement in everybody. Then Ceci, can Ceci play more like year 1 than year 2, right? Can he, there was talk about injuries and some things that hampered him last year. Can that change? And then Vinny Darnay, can he improve? What, or not, can he? Will he improve enough to be a guy that's like, man, we got to leave this guy in all the time and really become that force? So the right side, let's have this conversation again, 41 games into the season. Fair. So we can get a look at what those guys look like. Right now, I'd still feel they need to add someone on the right side. But to add someone means someone has to go out, and you probably have to send a significant asset with that to get whoever you're trying to get.
Yep. I think that's fair. We know what we know now, but you have to allow for people to grow. And I think that's why it's smart for the Oilers to wait, right? How much Darnay grows? Well, that matters. How much Broberg can step in and make an impact, that matters. Also, keep your mind open to the fact that somebody might surprise you, Struds, because you never know. Vinny Darnay is a great example of that. You never know when someone might come in, surprise you, outkick their coverage a little bit, and all of a sudden you got a usable player that you didn't realize you'd have, and you didn't need to make the move that you've been thinking about making. So lots still to be determined, but the blue line is getting there. It's close. We know they likely have the forward group. And then the goaltending, but that's a podcast for another day. That was the breakdown brought to you by our good friends over at Mr. Dirk. Quick commercial break here where we want to tell you a little bit more about Long Shots, our studio sponsor. Really cool spot. I've been out there a few times and really looking forward to our relationship with Long Shots coming up this season. On the other side of that message, Mark Masters from TSN out in Toronto is going to join us, and we'll chat a little bit about how the Maple Leafs are shaking up. Stick with us. Long Shots Golf is the destination for both golf enthusiasts and sports fans. Top-of-the-line TrackMan simulators provide a highly entertaining and accurate golf experience, while a full-service sports bar loaded with big screens and scratch kitchen make it a truly unique destination. They have locations in Sherwood Park and Edmonton. Experience the best indoor golf and sports bar in town. Visit longshots.ca. That's longshots with a Z.ca. All right. There he is, Mark Masters, joining us here on Got Your Back. Mark, how you doing, my friend? Good to see your face.
It's good to see you, gentlemen, and I'm doing great. I'm just eager to get going. I can't believe the summer's gone. It always seems to fly by. And I'm ready for hockey season.
I know, it disappears so fast. This will be our takeaway segment, brought to you by one of our newest sponsors. Really happy to have Redefined Health on board. They specialize in total body and mind wellness, from chiropractic and massage care treatments to acupuncture, soft tissue therapy, nutrition, and even an on-site registered psychologist. Redefined Health is here to help you get well and stay well. And Struds, it's run by a guy that has about the perfect name for being a chiropractor and running a place like this. Tyler Fix. Dr. Tyler Fix.
Yeah, when I first met him, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. There's no way this is your name. And he's like, I know. But he's a great guy.
He didn't change it. He told me
No.
he did not change it. No, it's like Russian and German descent, I think. And it's maybe been morphed over the years in his lineage. But yeah, great guy. But what a name for a guy that, is supposed to fix you.
I know. I wish that my last name was Sniper. I might have done better in the NHL.
You know what? At this point, you would settle for decent talker. Jason Talker.
Yeah. Chirper. The chirp.
Yeah, Jason Chirper. So, Mark, getting set for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Brad Treliving has come in. How would you describe the body of work so far that Treliving has done? I'm not going to let you go on for 2 minutes here. I'm going to ask you, give me a couple of words to headline Treliving's impact so far.
Well, I mean, the number one impact is that he did not shake up the core, right?
Mm-hmm.
After what happened last season, they won a round, but then the way they went out in the second round, I think a lot of people thought they're going to, do something to shake up the core of this team. The four forwards, of course, even Morgan Riley in the back end, if you want to extend it to five. So that did not happen. And just with the way he came in, he described it as drinking out of a fire hose. Maybe he just didn't have, it would have been rash for him to have made the big change. So that was the first thing is, everyone thought, okay, he doesn't have the loyalty to these guys. He would be well positioned to make a big splash. He made it clear from day one he wasn't going to do that. So he didn't do that. And then when you look at the free agent signings, clearly he valued personality and toughness, grittiness. And that's not, necessarily too different from what Kyle Dubas had kind of come around to in the later stages of his time in Toronto, where he looked to bring in a guy like Wayne Simmons, for example, and tried to put around the core some sandpaper. Luke Schenn brought in at the deadline, played very well. For example, there are examples of that. Ilya Labushkin was another guy. There's a lot of examples of Kyle Dubas later in his tenure doing that, but obviously he's gone hard on that. And kind of hoping that guys like Tyler Bertuzzi, Max Domi, and Ryan Reeves, of course, was the big surprise with 3-year contract to get him in the team. So that's kind of what the takeaway was, that he was really kind of going after that angle in terms of supplementing the core. Not too different from what we've seen from Dubas. To be honest, guys, the big takeaway is not a ton has changed with this
so
team.
far, like steady as she goes. Would that be your, you gave me the 2 minutes anyways, but steady as she goes would encapsulate your thoughts.
Yeah. I've been waiting all summer to talk about this. Yes. Steady as she goes. Even the coach is back with an extension. So steady as she goes in Leafland, guys, for as long as that can go.
All right, Mark Master. So I like some of the dishes they made up front, but I look at this decor and I'm trying to, if I squint really hard, I can maybe see a playoff team that maybe wins a round or so. So like, John Klingberg, I think is better than he showed last year in Anaheim. I don't know what went on there, but I think he's better than that. But I just there, if you just look at the D, I have a hard time even seeing that decor is playoff worthy. Who are the guys who are going to surprise not just me, but themselves in that dressing room?
Well, yeah, Klingberg better be better than what he showed. The Leafs are paying him more than $4 million, and they're taking a gamble there for sure. The problem with the Leafs on their back end has been they don't get a lot of offense from their defensemen other than Morgan Riley. Outside of that, it's like a wasteland, and he didn't score till January last season. So there was already question marks, and then they didn't. You lose Justin Hall, goes to Detroit. Luke Schenn leaves in free agency after he played so well in the playoffs. And there's nothing but question marks on the back end for the Leafs right now. So who's going to step up other than Klingberg, who has to get his swagger back? Mm-hmm. Timothy Liljegren is a young guy who showed a lot of promise for a good chunk of the season. And actually, when they were in Edmonton around the trade deadline, he had a tough game and then got scratched the next day. And it was really downhill from there. And he was a scratch much of the playoffs. So they're counting on him taking another step. And maybe can he be a top 4 guy on the right side there? We will see. And then there's guys you kind of know who they are. There's no prospects, knocking on the door right now. Topi Niemela is their top defensive prospect, but he's not ready. He's just 21. And he's kind of on the smaller side. So they don't really have, they signed some guys along the fringes, but there's no one who's going to be a game changer on the back end. So the belief is that at some point this season, whether it's at the deadline or at some other point, another move will be made to kind of bolster this group, much like they did with Luke Schenn last year.
How are Leaf fans going to feel about a 55-point season from Rasmus Sandin, do you think?
They weren't happy with how well he was playing. They were the immediate aftermath of the trade in Washington. But
15 points in 19 games after that trade. For a guy that Leaf fans were just like, show us, just show us. Yeah.
Well, and it's just tough with the left side there. It didn't feel like he was going to get a chance. And now it looks like maybe he would have been useful. And from the media perspective, he was always one of the better talkers. So yeah, there are a lot of people in the Leafs world were that would be a tough one. If Sandin blossoms into a legit top 4 guy and is doing it in the conference, that would be a tough pill to swallow. Like, I don't know. TJ Brody had a tough playoffs and, the regular season, a couple of injuries. Mark Giordano is the oldest player in the league. 40 years old, and he was borderline unplayable in the playoffs to the point where they had to address 7 guys. Jake McCabe came in and will be his first full season, so maybe he can take another step. There's another guy where, when you come in mid-season, it can be tough. He was given tough minutes too, so maybe he settles down and can be a top 4 guy. But it's not, Justin Hall, he was a whipping boy in Toronto, but he played a lot of minutes, penalty kill, tough matchups, and those aren't easily replaced. So it's going to be really interesting how they put this together. They have a new assistant coach overseeing the defense this season and Mike Van Ryn coming in. So actually a lot of question marks on the back end for sure for this Leafs team.
I can't just let this go because I honestly, I love watching Leafs. Probably after the Oilers, I watch them the most. And I think what they have is a lot of, I think Morgan Rielly is a pretty good defenseman, but after that, they have a lot of guys who are borderline 3s and 4s and then down from there. And I love Luke Schenn, but when he came in, he was playing on the top unit. I'm like, this isn't going to be a long run. So let me say this, Mark Master. I believe the answer is in-house for them to solve their problems. I love this guy, but Willie Nylander, trade him for a legit defenseman. What is the holdback? What am I missing that doesn't seem like the obvious answer to what needs to be addressed on this team?
Well, at least for this coming season, Nylander is the best contract they got. He's under $7 million, 40 goals. So you kind of want to, that's one of the arguments to kind of play it out here, right? Like you got this guy on a pretty good deal. He's scored 40 goals last year and kind of faded a bit down the stretch. So maybe he can give you even more this year. The belief with the Shanna plan and this Leafs philosophy has been, if you have those 4 guys, then you're going to have a chance every season and you're in the playoffs, which they don't want to take for granted. So if you trade William Nylander, it's very hard to win that deal, but you can. And Kyle Dubas, it certainly sounded like in his last news conference before he was let go by the team, he mused more openly than ever before about making a deal, and he had referenced the Matthew Tkachuk trade that Florida had made, because sometimes the opportunity exists. So I'm sure Brad Treliving will be looking throughout this season. It's obviously trickier during the year with the cap and all that, but to see if an opportunity were to arise somewhere, right? Usually it happens in the off season, but maybe you can make that Jack Eichel type trade. But the thing the Leafs have been missing has been that big presence on the back end, right? Every Stanley Cup champion seems to have that horse on the back end, and Morgan Rielly has really played well and upped his game in the playoffs, but he's not the prototypical number 1 guy, I guess, that you'd think of. He's never been a nominee for the Norris Trophy. Fifth, finished 5th one year when he scored 20 goals. But yeah, so I mean, I would agree that if they could make that work, they're just hesitant to, because it seems on the surface really hard to win a William Nylander trade, at least for this season.
Yeah, they'll get you to the playoffs every year if you have those guys. And that's a great point, Mark, but they're not necessarily the right mixture to get you over the line and win a Stanley Cup, right? You need to rob from Peter to pay Paul a little bit if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs. Last one quickly on the goaltending front. Samsonov is back. Wall is there. Jones gets added. I mean, who do you think will play the most games for the Leafs this year?
I mean, we're all pretty much expecting Jones to be picked up on waivers. That would be the very Leaf thing to happen, because if the Leafs put a goalie on waivers at the end of training camp, They did it once, and one year they had 2 goalies they lost right there at the in a camp. So the Leafs, I think Dubas was saying that they were like leading the league and guys plucked off waivers. It's the beauty of playing in Toronto is even the fourth liners is going to get the microphone lot.
Yeah. You guys will talk to anybody and put them on TV.
Yes.
Make everybody a superstar out there. That's on you guys, Mark.
How often,
you and your media corps.
How often do you think we're going to be talking to Ryan Reeves this year? Mike's going to be in front of his mouth a few times, but
just set up a podium at his stall.
He'll be like an additional coach for us. We'll just go talk to him every game and just get his take. Honestly, it might be like that. Samsonov's going to play the most if he stays healthy, but the problem is he's never really played a lot, right? He's never played more than 40-ish games a year. That's his height. He was injured last year, got injured in the playoffs. Joseph Woll was starting those last couple of games. Matt Murray's on the LTIR, so we're expecting him to not play. And then Martin Jones, as I mentioned, waivers. And then beyond that, they don't have a ton of depth. So goaltending is another area that they could run into trouble, especially if Samsonov doesn't hit. Right, and he's now on another 1-year deal pending UFA. Now it's a big pressure-packed deal, and he's got to back up what he just did. And he was very, very good for a large part of the season. So goaltending, defense, apparently they're important. And
just a little, Mark.
We were getting, and then the thing is, though, guys, don't forget that we talk about defense, we talk about goaltending being the big question marks. The Leafs finished the playoffs last year, scoring 2 goals in 7 straight games, which is still mind-boggling, to have happened. So goal scoring is always dried up. They have a new assistant coach overseeing the power play, Guy Boucher. There's a lot of questions for a team that seems pretty much slam dunk to make the playoffs. It's just always how do they find the right recipe, and maybe Ryan Reeves will add some personality to the dressing room. Some of these guys can do it, but yeah, I don't know. It's going to be the journey is interesting, but at this point for the Leafs, you're just like, get us to April. Let's see what these guys can do.
Mark, do you vote on TSN's top 50 players?
I do. I got my window open there.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Where's Austin Matthews going to be?
I think on my last draft, I had him at number 5.
Did you?
Which
number
I'm
5.
sure would take a lot of flack in Leafland. Yeah.
Really? Coming off that season?
Well, 40 goals. Yeah.
Oh, you mean on your last draft of this year?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. So
okay, I got you.
Yeah. So McDavid, Draisaitl, Makar, McKinnon.
You've got McDavid, Draisaitl. Yeah, that'll be my one too as well. Yeah.
I mean, I know.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's not geared to this podcast, but that's what I got. McDavid. I'm a huge Draisaitl fan. I don't think he gets enough love in hockey because if he plays in Edmonton and McDavid overshadows, I guess, a bit, but I'm huge. I just think he's number 2 player in the game going into
the Quizmaster is going to be agitated at me for outing votes already. So we'll leave the rest, but the top 50 on TSN is always tons of fun. The Quizmaster puts lots of work into it. And I look forward to that in the coming weeks on our TSN platforms. Mark, you going to stick around for our next segment here?
I want to hear it.
Yeah, Struddy's about to dig in. That was Takeaways brought to you by Redefined Health. Next up, we have Struddy's World. As Zuby is preparing that beautiful animation that he built. There was a lot of love on the stream, Zuby, last podcast for all the work and the effort that you put into it. Mark, you'll be able to see it. We're not going to be able to hear it. Like the people on the stream will be able to hear it, but you're not going to believe the production value for season 3 of Got Your Back. I pushed honestly, another $50-$60 of budget per month towards production value, and you'll see what Zuby was able to do. But it's brought to you today by our great friends over at Pathfind. If you own or operate a business, you know the value of a fantastic employee. I do, like Zuby. Pathfind is here to help you find your next star player, to take your business to the next level. They help with recruitment, career transition, leadership coaching. They truly have your whole team covered so you can find your organization's path forward. Check them out at pathfind.ca. Roll it, Zuby.
When you make a mistake, heads should roll. Just me and Nick Lachey, window down, shirt off, just loving it. My goal is someday maybe be Forrest Gump. Now that I say it out loud, it does sound a little crazy. Awesome. So about 5-6 years ago, I was hanging out with my uncle Bob. He lives in Calgary. And Bob, I would say that he is probably not as good looking as I am. And his personality is not quite as good. But his hair, I noticed, is similar to mine. So he and I both kind of part it down the middle and it kind of fluffs out to the side. And I have my hat on today. But I've noticed that we had the same look. And I'm like, my God, I'm starting to get the same hairline as my uncle Bob, who is on his best day a soft 7. I'm probably an 8 or a 9. So what's going to happen to me in about 10 or 15 years? And it really kind of got me a little bit worried about it. And then I was watching this movie called Weird Science. I'm not sure if I'm familiar with this. It's a project. It's an 80s movie, but there's this older brother in it called Chet. And Chet, I was watching the other day. I'm like, oh my God, my hair looks just like Chet. And I remember thinking when I watched that show originally that my hair is awful, that his hair is awful. And so within a span of about 72 months, I've realized that my hair went from pretty good to looking like my Uncle Bob and Chet from Weird Science. Now, I'm not a big hair guy. Like I don't worry about it too much. I realize we're all going to lose it at some point and it's going to go out. But I like the way my hair is being cut now. But guys, it is a little bit unsettling when you start looking like people that you realize have bad hair. And my poor Uncle Bob, who again on his best day is a soft 7, and Chet from Weird Science. You want to talk about a rough comeuppance for this old dog. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. I might have to take a look at the plugs like our buddy. Some of my buddies have done, but I don't know. That's a hard one. I don't know if you guys ever had that where you like realize you're starting to look like in anything, whether it's body or face or wrinkles or whatever, like a guy that you really didn't think was that attractive in the first place. Yeah, that's Chet. That's Chet from Weird Science, and that's what I'm looking like right now.
Your mic's muted there, Shuggy.
Oh boy, I muted my mic again. Sorry. Struds, there's so much to unpack here, buddy. It's already happening. That's the thing. You're like, what's it going to be like in 15 years? Buddy, it's already happening. It's here. And we've all been telling you it's here. Like, I part it down the middle and it fluffs out on the sides.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Struds, none of that is happening. I say this lovingly. There's
like
no fluffing out on this. It's not. That's.
I think that it's a little bit of a surprise when you watch a movie and you think, oh my God, sometimes I look like that. Oh. And Chet had awful hair. Masters, you're probably a bit young to watch Weird Science, but I watched that
and going over my head.
Yeah. It is so hard. I don't even know to compare. Like maybe Sergeant Slaughter. I guess
Struddy's World, Mark, is the silo of honesty. So I know that you don't know him that well, but you can be honest here.
Oh, for sure.
We can turn this into the intervention that's required.
I think you look good, Struddy.
Here we go.
And you wear a hat well. There's no reason to panic here.
Take it off, Struds. Take the hat off. You're begging. There's no part. You say I part it down the middle. Where is the part?
When I do it, even the other day, he complimented. Said I had nice hair. And this is just because I just worked out and I'm all a little bit sweaty. But I'll do it up one day. Then we'll put the picture, maybe Chet and myself side by side, so people can really get a sense. Yeah, I should get a picture of my Uncle Bob. You should see this guy.
Mark, you know what happened to me? Because I'm not one to talk, right? Like it is getting messy up here. There are all sorts of spots. Yeah, it's not pretty for me. I had no idea, Struds. This is like probably 8 years ago. I'm standing on set, Mark, and you know how you're waiting to go live on TSN, and you can through the feedback you can hear the panel. So the panel is all sitting there, and it's Dregs and Bobby and James Duthie and like the whole crew, right? And I'm getting ready to go live. So they bring my shot up in the studio to make sure that, the shot's good. And James is like, Ryan, can you hear me? I'm like, yeah, got you, Jim. He's like, okay, pal, we'll talk to you, man. I'm like, okay. So then they killed my mic to them, but they didn't kill their audio to me. And in the background, I hear Dregs go, Rish. He goes, oh, boys, kid's losing his feathers. He said that to the rest of the panel. And I was like, what? I'm like, and I'm talking in the mic, but they can't hear me. So I go home that night and I'm in the mirror and I'm like, no. That was the day I first realized it's going. And Struds, I was late to that party, man. Everybody else knew it. I didn't know it, just like you right now.
That's tough. You know, the first person to tell me I was receding? Sedeno Chara. I was 21. He was 20. We were both in the same team in the minors, and we're going to splash water in our face before the game. And he's at one sink. I'm at the next one. He's like, man, you're starting to go bald. I'm like, what? I was 21 years old. And I remember I had the worst game. I was so rattled. And I'd see Z every now and then. I'd bring that up to him. He's like, I know. I probably should have told you at that time. Like, yeah, right before the game, I was for no reason. It wasn't even like we were talking.
And that's what he said. You're going bald.
Yeah, you're going bald right before, like, I'm not, it was like, we were going on like 6 minutes later. And I mean, he also is, he's a bald guy, way more bald than I am. But anyways, yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. And that was my introduction to baldness, was Zdeno
He's
Chara.
one of the few guys that would have a view down at the top of your head, though, right?
True.
He would know more than anybody just because of his vantage point. Mark, you're blessed. You're blessed, buddy. Like, there has not been a shred of movement in that hairline of yours. The cowlick is total. Like, you don't produce that little thing in the front, right? That just is natural. Like the Superman cowlick right up front.
No, it's natural. It does get too curly at times, but that's based on the issues you guys have raised. I feel bad bringing up even as a problem. But yeah, I've been gets a little curly at times. But yeah, I know I've been very blessed. I'm a little concerned listening to you guys, but seems like I got the good genes going on. My dad still got a full head of hair, so
yeah.
I'm
just know, Mark, that if and when it starts to happen, you will receive kindness from Struds and I if you own it. But Darren Dreger will be merciless. So just prepare.
I love that he broke the story too. That's I bet he knew the mic was open too. Like,
breaking news: Rishaug is losing his feathers.
Yeah.
Go with it. Confirmed.
Yeah, there's a whole other podcast to be done about what happens off mic or off camera with the panel.
100%. All right, that was Struddy's World, brought to you by Pathfind. Last segment of the day. Let's get to the stream and see what kind of action there has been. Ask Us Anything, brought to you by Rini Buclan of Maxwell Devonshire Realty. She's all about amazing service for her clients. Buying a house is a huge deal. You need someone you can trust and that you know is working 24/7 to either sell your home or help you find a new one. Give Rini a call, the Shark of the Park. Struddy loves that handle, 780-994-0280. Shark of the Park, Struds.
I love it. I love that name. Wish I had a nickname like that.
Zuby, you've been monitoring things behind the scenes. Anything from our Ask Us Anything segment? I feel like there was either chirps or support for Struds on the stream for that last segment.
Well, so Seeking Sad Guru, who we've seen on the stream here a few times, says, embrace it. Jason Strudwick could be the next Jason Statham. And so I was just gonna parlay that into asking Struds, have you ever shaved it all off? Have you ever considered it going with the full dome?
Yeah, no, probably time to if you haven't.
And I think that Jason Statham is a very good comparison. Both kind of like we have that 1,000-mile stare, that rugged looks. Ladies tend to rubberneck when we walk into a room. So I think that's fair, but I'm going to give it a little bit
self-awareness.
Longer. I wanted to get to 50 before I make any bold decisions. So that's another like 2 years. So we have about 24 months to enjoy the greatness that was my hair.
Okay. We also had, you want to say something on that, Ryan?
No, I just the lack of self-awareness is mind-numbing, but go ahead, Zuby. I'm a broken record on this. Yeah.
Okay, some stranger asked us, this is pretty broad, but I don't think we've talked about this on the show. What do you guys think of Matthew's new contract, the extension, and obviously Mark has something to say on that, an opinion.
Mark, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there was the criticism is that it's only 4 years, but if he was going to go longer, it was going to be a higher number, which would have handcuffed the team. So the way they framed it was the right balance for both sides. I think from the Leafs side, it's a win-win in the sense that the Leafs get Matthews. Now they're going to have him for the first 12 years of his career, basically his entire prime. And Matthews, he gets some more security and he keeps his, he gets another payday. So, I am sure you would have, if you're the Leafs, you would have loved them to do the McDavid thing, the McKinnon thing, go 8 years and just don't have to worry about it. And you got him basically for his whole career. But Matthews didn't do it on his last deal. Didn't do it on this deal. I got no problem with it. I think it's fine. And good on him. He wanted to get it done before camp. He didn't want me and others just making it the story on day one. He wanted to give us the chance to just focus on Nylander, and I appreciate that.
Struddy?
Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I love Matt. I think he's a great player. There's no doubt about it. I wonder, Mark, was there any conversation about him with the team and their direction? Like I get the sense these guys want to win.
Yeah.
Like, so he must have been satisfied with what they're going to do, or he just likes it there that much.
I think he does legitimately like it in Toronto, obviously. And then I think he just likes who he's playing with. I mean, he plays with Mitch Marner every year, or William Nylander. Those are great. They were surrounding him at least with talent. He scored 60 goals not long ago, and he feels like they can put him in a position to succeed. He's loyal to the guys around him. He seems to legitimately have strong relationships with the core guys there. So as he said, he wants to see this through. He wants to, what more could he ask for? That's what you want as a fan, is you want a guy who wants to finish the job. They haven't come close to finishing the job in Toronto. So he feels, like he's got, something to give here. He wants to help finish the job is the way he's kind of framed it. And Tree Living spent a lot of time with him down in Arizona. So sold him on what he's bringing to the table. And he was willing to re-up for a little longer.
Zuby, I'm going to pull the next one here off the Weiss Johnson Twitter stream. This one is from our YouTube comments, actually. Get your furnace service now, by the way, before it breaks down in the dead of winter. Because when it's minus 30 and everybody's furnace is breaking down, that's not the time to call and say, I need help, I need it fixed. Might as well get it serviced, be proactive. It's always a good idea to have your furnace or heating system serviced and tuned up for winter so that you will not have to worry. That is Weiss Johnson. Weiss Johnson, whoa. Good timing on the jingle today, Zuby. Josh Vander Zwag says, I have a question for Struds. Did he have a favorite defenseman to be paired with? And if he played this upcoming season, who would he like to be paired with, aside from guys like Makar?
Yeah, that'd be my first choice. I wouldn't have to touch the puck. But I played a guy named Ed Jovanovski, and I love playing with him because he was really fast and agile, and he recovered a lot of pucks and defended and kind of surfed over like Kulak does defending. And I was able to kind of be like the catch-all. So every now and then he'd make a mistake. I made more than my fair share, but when he did, I'd be like, okay, this was my time to like make it up to him for everything he does for me. And then he was pretty rambunctious. So when things got out of control, I'd go and slow it down. But I loved playing. I played him for like a half year, and it was probably my favorite time to play. But now a guy I like to play with, someone's really mobile, like a Quinn. I love Quinn Hughes, someone like that just they make the game easier. They make plays, get the puck and make plays. Or if you give it to them, they're able to get out of trouble because I wasn't exactly the best, puck mover. So those are the kind of players that I really like, I think, to play with. And I mean, Makar would be the obvious choice.
Let me ask you about this, Struds. So you listed a bunch of playing attributes that guys have. Is there a personality that you think is a good fit next to you? Like if the guy is maybe super complimentary or supportive, or maybe if it's a guy that's a little bit hard on you and can push you. What about the off-ice traits in a D partner that you would like?
It would depend on where you're at in your career. As a young guy, you wanted someone that would come off and be calm and supportive and be like, hey, you know what, things are going to be okay, whatever. Maybe make this play here or that play. You don't need someone who's all over you. Then as you get older, it's nice to have someone who, working with a rookie is fine, but they make mistakes, right? That are, and you do too, but there's some mistakes that you can just avoid. And so it was always kind of like, okay, I got to be watching for me and him. I remember one D-man I played with, he had a tough time reading the rush. So I'd be yelling like 3-on-2 and he'd be playing like a 1-on-1, so you're like, whoa, man, this isn't ideal. You got to see what's going on here. But that's your job as a vet. So the personality, I'd never really worried about too much. It was just more about your interaction on the bench and how they felt.
Zuby, let's take one more, pal.
Okay, when the season is all said and done, and wherever the Leafs finish playoff-wise, when we look back on this season, who will they say made the biggest impact in Toronto of the new guys acquired between Reeves, Bertuzzi, Domi, Klingberg?
Ooh, Mark.
Wow. Well, I mean, Klingberg, if he doesn't turn around, might be for the wrong reasons.
Impact negative or impact positive. Negative. Yeah, good point by you, Mark.
Yeah,
glass half empty.
Like if that doesn't work, I mean, I imagine if it did, they can make a change mid-season. Boy, I'm going to say Bertuzzi. He's probably going to get a look beside Matthews, and I think that he's got a chance to put up some crazy numbers here on the positive side, and Klingberg, I guess, on the negative side there in terms of like if they go out and it's ugly. He might be wearing the goat horns if there's a defensive breakdown or something, I guess. kind of hedging my bets there.
That's okay, is it fair to say that like they have all those players, they need Klingberg the most? Is that fair?
Well, judging how you feel about the blue line, Struds, he has the pedigree of a player that could make a significant difference. He's shown that in this league before. 100%. So based on how you feel about the blue line, I'd say yes to that, Mark, that Klingberg has a chance.
Here's a question for you guys. I'd be intrigued because I think it's going to be a big storyline in training camp. Would you put him on the top power play unit? Leafs were second overall last year, only behind the Oilers. Morgan Rielly's been the quarterback forever. Would you make that change? He's the guy got the long contract.
Because they're 4-1, right? They're 4-1 on the power play like the Oilers are. So there's no configuration to go 3-2 and have both those guys out there. It's too big a sacrifice.
Got the better shot, but Rielly.
Yeah, you're going to need Morgan Rielly this year. I wouldn't do it at first. I would only do it if it becomes necessary. Struds?
It's the same conversation I'm having in Pittsburgh with Letang and Carlson. Like Letang and Rielly have done a great job. And so these guys might be a little bit better, but the chemistry's already there. But you still need to get Carlson and, in this case, Klingberg going. And it's not like you're going to put Klingberg on the penalty kill. So if he doesn't get first-line power play, and I'd be surprised if he's on the penalty kill, where's he getting these minutes, right? How are you going to say, hey, man, we really need you. We need you to play above your $4 million salary, but we're not going to put you on the power play. So I think that's an interesting question, Mark. I doubt they'd go away from him. A tough one, man.
Absolutely. All right, boys. That was great. Mark, that was tons of fun, buddy. Thanks for joining us today. You come back again?
Anytime, guys. I loved it.
Gem of the day is that curling-sized or curling rock teacup you have. Look at that thing. How do you drink out of that?
That is the gem of the day. Let me see that. Oh, look, he's spilling. Mark, you're making a mess of yourself. Let me see that thing again. Show me the top of that. Show me, tilt it. Yeah, see, my nose wouldn't fit. I hate cups where the top that you drink out of is smaller than the actual vessel, because when I go to drink, this beak of a nose I have just bangs up against the edge.
It's an art.
It is an art.
But I've mastered it.
You have. You have mastered. You've mastered many things, and you got the best head of hair on the podcast today, Mark Masters. Thanks for joining us, buddy. Struds, great job today. Zuby, awesome work behind the scenes. People have no idea the curveballs I threw at him today. And the show was fairly smooth, I would say. Thanks for your downloads and your subscriptions. Thanks for joining us here on the live stream. We're going to drop another podcast. We're thinking maybe a live stream on Sunday night, so keep an eye on our feeds. In the meantime, enjoy Oilers rookie camp. If you get to watch some of that, they're in action tonight and over the next couple of days. And we will check in on Sunday. Have a great finish to your week. Chat soon. Cheers.